And now, okay, Jim. It'll take us a couple minutes before we get started, Bob. Okay? Can you hear me all right? Okay, good. I have Malia. Yomi. So you had a little, you couldn't set up this morning?
Some of the main school is over there.
Yeah? Very nice.
But this fire are gone. They did.
Same way the big chocolate chip cookies from always go for.
Dixie.
Yeah. No, I'm going to try to call him today. I've got yourself and myself.
I'm already a miserable old man.
Marty Levine will be there. Harry Meltzer will be. Has already told me to be there. Kornberg, Yigalis will be there. Tova Zimmer will be there. So there's still a couple of people I haven't heard from. I haven't heard from him.
What is it?
Meeting for the education plan.
That's not going to be
Okay. Gentlemen, I'm going to start the learning sponsors while you're getting your food stuffs, because remember it says in Ein Kemach Ein Torah. Zev isn't staying. Zev is not staying this morning.
I don't know, he was sitting down here.
Maybe he has to go to the restroom.
He left his tomorrow.
All right, so maybe he had to go to the restroom. Okay, learning sponsors. Year of Learning, friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer ben Yisrael Aharon, Sarah Alpert, in memory of her husband, Harav Tzvi Lipa ben Hillel, Bella and David Adler, in memory of her father, Eliyahu ben Yosef Kohen, friends of Hani Chaifetz, Chana Shoshana bat Yosef, friends of Jack Prince, Yaakov Yitzchak ben Shmuel Dov, friends of Sandy Davidoff, Shulamit bat Chaim Eliyahu, friends of Judy Cohen, Yehudit Liba bat Moshe, friends of Dr. Annette Safransky, Chana bat Ephraim Fischel, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinzer bat Yosef Chaim Bechava, Chanan ben Moshe Eliezer Bechana, Pesha bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi Vitzipora, Easter ben Yoel Moshe Cohen Bechana, friends of Linda Katz, Hinda bat Yehoshua, Lee and Harvey Greenberg, in memory of their parents, Esther bat Eliezer, Yaakov Yosef ben Abraham, Sarah Rivka bat Baruch Yehuda, Betzalel ben Abraham Alevi, friends of Rochelle Ebner, Ike and Evelyn Blachlor, in memory of his sister, Dr. Phyllis Pacheco, Liv Shabbat Isser. A Month of Learning by David and Hannah Grunblatt, in memory of his father, Harav Avram Yosef ben Yitzchak Meir Halevi. Marcia Bush, in memory of her father, excuse me, Menachem Mendel ben Shlomo, Ruvain and Susan Podolsky, in memory of his mother, Fadel bat Shraga Feivel. Today is the 30th. We have a day of learning by Steve and Nina Levine, in memory of his father, Label Bereb Yisrael Halevi.
Also brought booze.
And he also brought mashke. Okay? And the B Worden, no, that's not till later. Okay, may Neshamas have an aliyah, crank a rafia, velti yashir, shema tzliah,
Amen.
B'chol b'nei Israel, a good gebench jar. Okay? Bob is on Zoom there. Okay.
Morning.
Okay. I have asked Michael to share with us a brief overview of what the first part of the Gemara is going to be presenting. Okay, what?
But pretty much all of it.
Well, it's about a mud and a half. Okay, and so I want us to understand, at least share from real quick for me. I found this piece of Gemara difficult. Number one, I used both Art Scroll and Steinsaltz, okay, to try to get a better handle on it, okay? But I think what happens is, and I give credit to Art Scroll here, you should have, if you, whether you're using the book or something else, it's helpful to have the diagram of the calendar, okay, that they present, even though that doesn't necessarily make it that much easier, okay? So if everyone has gotten okay, their stuff, okay, and is about ready.
So while, should I start? While we have a lunar calendar, it has to justify to the solar calendar. Significant events, solar calendar, are the equinoxes and the solstice. Because the equinox determines the division between winter and spring. That's the Nisan equinox. And they call it the Kufa. And the autumnal equinox, the divisor between summer and autumn, is the Tishrei equinox. And okay, there are two psukim. One uses the word avir, which we often translate as spring. It really means ripening. And that pasuk tells us Pesach has to be in the spring. There's another pasuk, Chata Asif, with the gathering time, tells us that Sukkot has to be in the fall. So several machlokes get involved here. The first is the equinox part of the preceding season or the next? That becomes important because if the 15th of Nisan is the equinox and the equinox is part of winter, then Pesach could not start then, and you'd have to make an Uber. So was a long discussion about Pesach coming out, and then we shift to a discussion of Sukkot. And there's a three-way, basically, machlokes with regard to Sukkot. Does part of Sukkot have to be in the spring and not all? Does all of Chol HaMoed have to be in the spring, but the first day not necessarily? Or does all of Sukkot have to in the fall? And then you throw in the issue of whether the equinox is summer or autumn. So you have to put Sukkot and Pesach together and come out with a procedure where Pesach is certainly in the spring, and when you get to Sukkot, depending on the Shita, much or all of Sukkot has to be in the fall, and then we make an Uber year. So we throw out all of the situational stuff about mud and bridges and slow traffic, and we go to pure math, which illuminates how Rebbe Akiva could be in jail and calculate the next three Uber yards. He couldn't possibly know when there would be a traffic jam on the road from Bavel to Yerushalayim, but he could, because of their knowledge of astronomy and the calendar, calculate. And indeed, when Hillel III made the calendar, it works for thousands and thousands of years, whereas the Christians couldn't work it out for even 1,500 years by the time they got to the keep in mind the mechloikes of when, whether or not the tekufa is preceding or the postseason,
Mhm.
and the location of Sukkot, whether all of Sukkot, only all of Chol Hamoed, or at least one day of Chol Hamoed has to be in the fall. And if all that stuff is in your mind, then you'll be able to understand the Shaklavataria tomorrow.
Okay, now that it's as clear as mud, we're good. We're going to go on. Thank you, Michael.
Is Shimon is retired?
We don't know. Okay? He has to deal, when I last spoke with him, he has to deal with some personal issues.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Echad V'Esrim Yom. We saw that there was a difference there from the bottom of the previous Amud, okay, where it said V'kama Ruba Shel Chodesh, Shisha Asar Yom, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That was, okay, I'm going to start in the top of Yud Gimel, Amud Aleph, okay, just pointing, okay, just pointing out the fact that there was a difference there in view, okay, because it said, Ein ma'avirin et hashana, ela im kein haitat kufa chasera ruba shel chodesh. Okay, and we translated that as the summer season is incomplete until the greater part of the month has passed. Okay, and how much was the greater part of the month? Okay, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it was 16 days. Okay, according to Rabbi Yossi, it is 21 days. Okay, think of that as I'm going to call that as the fall period, or the autumn period, when Sukkot is going to come. Okay, with the question being, at what point is it possible that the equinox, if we're using that term as we might define it, half the day in terms of equal number of hours, and as Michael pointed out, how we saying is that day considered from the past season, or is it considered the new season? Okay? If the day itself is 50-50, you're not sure whether you're saying it belongs to the past season or to the new season.
Yeah, the fall. That's a machlokas elsewhere.
Right, right, okay? Right, so, Ushnehem Mikra Echad Darshu. And both of them, okay, namely Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, darshan the same pasuk. Okay? All right. So we're now starting Yud again. Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, second line on the Amud. What pasuk? Chag Ha'asif Kufat Hashana. Okay. Now I would just simply want to quickly point out is Ha'asif is a key word here because it talks about the gathering, and you're able to gather the grain, the produce, during Chol HaMoed. Okay, and because you're able to gather it on Chol HaMoed, this is part of the entire machloket. Do you have to have at least Chol HaMoed in the fall season? Okay, and therefore that satisfies the pasuk. Okay, even one day of Chol HaMoed. Thank you. Okay, or okay, does the entire Sukkot holiday have to be in the fall? Okay, because then the pasuk, right? Because why? Tkufat Hashana. All right. Here I'm not translating Tkufa as equinox. I want to translate it as season. Okay. In this case. All right. So what happens? Mar Savar Hule Chag Ba'inin B'Tkufa Chadasha. One master holds that the entire holiday, all of Sukkot,
All of the gathering days.
right, okay,
Not necessarily the first day.
okay, but the majority of the
You can't
holiday.
gather on the first
Okay, the
day anyway.
majority of the holiday. It says
That's right.
Kulei Chag. That's why it's problematic.
He says you can have the
All right?
first day still in the summer
But
because you
the
can't
rest,
gather anyway.
right,
But as long as the second
Second
day
day
is
is
in
in
the
the
fall.
fall.
fall. In other words, from the time that you can gather. Okay? Ba'inin but has to be b'tkufa hakadasha. The new season, I'm using tkufa here, season. In other words, in the fall. Okay? Umar savar miktsat chag ba'inin b'tkufa chadasha. And the other master seems to only hold that only part of the gathering days, I'm going to use that phrase, in other words, the Chol Moed, has to be in the new season in the fall. Okay? So even if one day of Chol Moed would be, depending on when the, so to speak, equinox would actually come out,
That's why he has 21 days.
right, that's why the longer date. Okay? Because what happens if the equinox doesn't fall to like the sixth day of Sukkot, for example? Okay? Right, Ma'ika Savre. So what then are they, and how do they understand this? What's their understanding? Right? Ika Savre Yom Tkufa Gomer. If we say that the day of now, the day of the equinox itself, finishes a particular season, right? In this case, summer, and then after that becomes fall. Belav hachinami. Okay? Then without this, right? What are we saying? Lo. Laman de amar kule chag ika. According to the one who says that all of the gathering days, we'll put it that way, have to be there. Velo lema'an de amar miktzat chag ika. And not, okay, and not only part of the gathering days are possible. Ela kasavre yom tkufa matchil. So therefore, we can't say that the equinox day itself, okay, it is ends a season. Where we have to say it begins the new season. It starts fall. Okay, Meitive. But we're going to, yeah.
So now we have both Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda
Neither of whom
are
is
in agreement, allegedly, that the equinox ends the summer or starts the fall. They do not disagree. We don't know which they hold yet, but we're bringing a brisa now that says they do disagree.
So that's what's going to happen. Meitive will challenge this with a new brisa. Yom Tkufat Gomer, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Here it seems that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that that day of the equinox is considered to be ending a season. Rabbi Yossi Omer Yom Tkufah Matchil, whereas Rabbi Yossi seems to be arguing. Okay, seems to be starting the
You lost you temporarily, Rabbi Green. Are you still there, Rabbi Green? But green, we lost the sound. Lost the sound. Check your.
Okay. Right.
Okay, you're back. You're
Right.
back.
So now what happens? Rabbi Shimon Omer, Af Shisha Asar Lefnei Hachag Ma'avirin. Rabbi Shimon is saying, no, we also have to figure this out 16 days before the gathering time of Sukkot. Okay, and that would then require us to intercalate the year. Now, Mike.
Because he holds that all of Sukkot, including the first day, has to be in the order. And since Sukkot is the 15th, even if the Tekufa were the 16th and only the one day is in summer,
We still have to intercalate the year.
Add a month, 6 months earlier.
Okay.
So you have to know what's going to happen in the fall and take it into account when you calculate the additional month or not.
Okay. We're going to get to a whole.
That's why you need Bukiyim or experts on it.
Acherim Omrim. Now we have another opinion besides the two that we've been following so far. This is the third opinion.
No, this is the fourth. Reb Shimon is the
Okay, third, Rabbi Shimon's third, fourth. Acherim Omrim, says others, Mi'ito, the Kama Mi'ito, only a short amount, okay, of the time of the month. And what is that? Right? Arba'a Asar Yom, okay, that's 14 days, Kasha. And this is all problematic, indeed.
No, because it becomes impossible
Right.
to make a calculation that agrees with everybody.
Right.
That is mathematically impossible. So the Gemara says we have all these opinions, and we cannot
Come to an answer as to how to determine whether we're required to have to intercalate or not. Okay, now we go on. Amar Mar, says Mar, the master, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shtei Yadot B'Chodesh. Rabbi Yehuda, again in reviewing, said it was 2/3 of the month that had to pass. Esrim Yom, 20 days. Rabbi Yossi Omer Mechashvin Shisha Asar Yom Lefnei HaPesach. Rabbi Yossi is saying we have to do the calculations 16 days before Pesach, Ma'abrin, and then we have, okay, if it doesn't work out, then we have to intercalate the year. Hainu Rabbi Yehuda Yom Tkufa Gomer. This would seem to indicate then that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that the day of the equinox itself is the end of the season.
We have said earlier that with Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, this is how we know.
V'yom Tkufa Marchil, okay, and the day of the equinox also starts the new season. Ika Beinayu, what's the difference between them? Okay, between, in this case, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Amar Mar, he says, Shisha Asar Lefnei Hechag Ein Ma'abrin. Okay, that if it's 16 days before the gathering part of Sukkot, we do not have the requirement to intercalate. Ela the Rabbi Yossi, but according to Rabbi Yossi's view, Shisha Asar Lefnei Hachag, I'm sorry, 16 days before the gathering part of Sukkot, Delo.
Then we would not.
We would not.
But
Rabbi Yehuda has said, he said we would. Ha, Shivsar, Batimsar, Ma'abirin. But, says the Gemara, were it such that it was the 16th or the 18th, the 18th, we would be required to intercalate.
That's how we think, but that can't be.
Vahamar, but didn't one say, Shisha Asar Lifnei HaPesach, Ein Batzir Lo? Okay, that 16 days before the Pesach and no less than that? No. Lo, Edi ve'edi ein ma'aberin. According to that view, whether it's this or that, we do not intercalate. Okay? Va'idi detana reisha shisha asar lifnei Pesach. And since he had taught, okay, in the Braita, okay, that we have to do 16 days before Pesach,
You have to take into account 16.
right? In that case, right? Tana Nami Shisha Asar Lifnei Hachag. He also taught a parallel that 16 days before the gathering part of Sukkot, you have to do the
He
math.
didn't mean literal. It's since he means literally Pesach, because all of the Pesach has to be in the spring. Therefore, if it's the 16th, even if you hold it's the beginning, the first day of Pesach would be in the winter. You can't do that.
Right.
So, since in that brisa it was literally 16, he uses a parallel wording, but for 16 for Sukkot, but he doesn't mean literally. So if it was the 17th or 18th, he would also not add.
Okay. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Af Shisha Asar Lifnei Hachag Ma'avirim. Whereas Rabbi Shimon holds a different view that 16 days before the gathering part of Sukkot, yes, you would have to intercalate the year. Hainu Tanakama. Okay, isn't that the very same thing, however, as what Tanakama was saying? What happens on the top of the new Amud? Okay, Amud base. Ika Beinaihu Yom Tkufa Madchil. The difference between them seems to be whether the equinox day itself begins a new season, the Yom Tkufa Gomer, or I'm going to translate the Vav here, okay, that the day of equinox ends a season.
So that would be enough to me.
Right.
But we still don't know who said what.
Velo mismei. Okay, but we do not have here a definitive view. Okay. Acherim omrim, says others, miuto, that it's only part, a minority part of the month. V'kama miuto, and how much is that? Arba asar yom, 14 days. Mai kasavar, or mai kasavre. Okay, what are they thinking? I kasavre yom tkfa gomer. If they're thinking that the day of the equinox itself closes the season, ends the season, vikule chag ba'inan, and also if they're also of the opinion that the majority of gathering days, all of has to be included in the autumn, right? Ha ika,
That would work.
that would be the case, and it's possible. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak. So Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak is going to try to give an explanation to this view. Acherim b'tkufat Nisan kaime. What are they talking about? They're focused on the equinox regarding the time of Nisan, that all of Nisan has to be in the spring. Okay? That, yeah, well, that's my point. Right, all of Pesach has to be in the spring. Dichtiv, why? Because there it's a pasuk that says, Shamor et chodesh ha'aviv. So what do we mean by then simply the pasuk? It doesn't mean simply observe the month that comes out in the spring. Aviv here means again, Shamor Aviv, observe the Pesach practices there. Okay, Shel Tkufa Sheyehe Bechodesh Nisan. Okay, the appropriate practices connected with Pesach, okay, in the season that is the month of Nisan, implying again that it must be, all right?
In the beginning of the month.
Right?
No, that
No.
means the 15th of the month must clearly
Be in the springtime, right?
The Takufa now has a 2-week window.
Right. So you
That
got
would
the
be
Kufa here
after
as,
the 1st of Nisan, but before the 15th.
okay, so it's Kufa here is not just the season, but it also implies that that equinox has to come out in that time period. Okay, that day of equinox. Right? Ula abre la Adar. So I simply add to the month of Adar. Right? Okay, so what happens?
No, but that is if the issue is whether the Tekufa is the 14th or 15th of Nisan.
You could add one
You
day.
could just add a day
Day
to
to
Adar. Why you
Adar.
have to add a whole
Why
month
bring in a
year?
whole month?
And we have that all the time, where the best in a month is either 29 or 30. So normally Adar is 29, but if you're going to have the Tekufa on the 15th
You got to
of
add the day.
Nisan, all you got to do is make Adar 30 days, and that shifts the Tekufa to the
So it's-
14th, and you solve everything, and you don't have to do all extra month.
Right.
So that's the Gemara's question right now.
Okay. Amar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, he says as follows: Tana milamala, lamata, kechashiv. Okay, he's going from the top. Some of the
It's counting backwards.
going downwards, right? Kechashiv. That's how he's doing his computation. Okay. Vahachi ka'amar, and this is what he means when he said that when acherim say ad miuto ma'avrin. Okay, until we get to that minimum amount, then we would have to intercalate. Vakama miuto, and how much is that? Arba'a asar yom. It's 14 days. Okay. Ravina, however, now is going to come forward and present something.
It's going to change our mind.
Okay. Amar, he
And
says.
we're indeed
Le'ol-
talking about Tishrei because that's the topic of that.
Okay.
Right?
So what happens? Says Ravina. Le'olam acherim betishrei kaimei. He's going to argue that no, their focus in the statement of the Braita and explanation of the Acherim group is basically focused on what? On Sukkot period. Okay, Tishrei Kaimei. Kasavre Acherim Kule Chag Ba'inan. Are we therefore saying that they hold that the all of the gathering days
No,
of
now it's the whole
okay,
holiday.
the whole thing has to be in that time period, okay, in the autumn. V'yom tov rishon, okay, and does that also imply the first day? Yom tov rishon, the first day, okay, you can't gather on the first day. Remember, it's Yom tov, right? So what happens? Chag ha'asif kativ. But the pasuk we cited initially said it was the holiday of gathering. And we know we can't gather on Yom Tov Rishon of Sukkot itself. But what happens? Chag haba bisman asefa. We're talking about the holiday in which the time of the gathering occurs.
And therefore, the first day has
First to be
in fall.
first.
That's his explanation.
That's his explanation of the Acherim in that case. Okay? All right.
And that's the end.
Okay.
We're now finished with adding
Okay.
and we're
All
moving
right.
back.
Okay. Now, okay. No, but okay. To understand the Gemara, I thank you, Michael, for your assistance. Okay. 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 All right. I'm going to tie in before I start just a point clarification. We have the term here smicha, laying on of hands. Okay? Normally, given what we've seen, we've assumed that smicha has been putting hands on an animal. I'm going to just mention it a second. Namely, the laying hands on a bull that was brought, okay, for par ha'elam davar, because the people had committed some sort of act that, based on the Beis Din ruling, that was in error. And so the Beis Din is carrying out an act there. So that's how we normally have been thinking of the word smicha here in this hand. However,
so when somebody gets smicha, they're
wait. You're jumping ahead. You're correct, but you're jumping ahead. Okay, but we also have the concept. Thank you, Benny. Okay, but we also have the concept of smicha as a way of, I use the loose term, ordination. Okay, right?
And a third meaning
Yeah.
is proximate.
We'll get to that. That's the av. Well, we'll get to it in a moment. Okay, so smichat zikenim. Okay, I'm going to simply say the laying on of hands by the elders, by the sages. Tanu Rabbanan. We start with the Braita. V'samchu ziknei. Okay, they said the elders lay their hands on. Yachol ziknei hashuk. How do we know that the phrase ziknei here refers to the elders that are part of the Beis Din, are part of the Sanhedrin? Maybe it's some other elders that happen to walk in off the street, okay, from the marketplace. Talmud lomar eda. We have the phrase eda, okay, which means they are elders of the congregation. They are reflected in a certain esteem, a certain authority. Okay, well, we're going to get to it in a second. Eda, if we're talking about a group, an identification with esteem and authority, okay, Yachol Katane Eda. We might have thought that if Eda then is understood to be people with authority, namely sages, how do we know it's the 70 or 71 Sanhedrin, the great Sanhedrin? It could be a lesser Sanhedrin, a smaller Sanhedrin, okay, of 23. Talmud Lomar Ha'eda, because the pasuk says the, in other words, implying a particular, right? The big one, okay? Miyuchadim Shebe'eda, those who are the esteemed, the authoritative ones in the congregation. V'kamahen, and how many of they? Okay, how many of them must do this act of putting hands on, right? V'samchu shnayim. So I have a pasuk. It says samchu, which is plural. I understand that according to one drasha, one perspective, that means two. Okay? Ziknei, again, plural, that's another two. That gives me four. Ve'en beidin shakul, we don't have an even number. Mosifina lehem od echad, we add one more. So therefore, this view says 5 of the right. Okay. So what happened? Hare kan chamisha divrei Rebbe Yehuda. And the Gemara reminds us that's 5. That was the view of Rebbe Yehuda. However, we go on. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he says, Ziknei Shnayim. Notice that he does not darshan the word samchu. Okay? All right? So what happens? So that's 2. Ve'ein beit din shakul mosifin alehen od echad. We don't, again, have an even number. So we add 1. Now we get 3. Hare kan shlosha. That gives us 3. For Rabbi Shimon. But regarding Rabbi Shimon, if the fact that the pasuk, the pasuk says v'samchu, okay, what happens? Why? What does he do with that? Right? Okay, I'm getting a problem here again. Hold on. Okay, what happens? He needs it for the text itself. Okay.
Tell you what they do.
And he does not darshan the word, but instead takes it as the behavior of what they're doing. Okay. Right. Was mebayile legufe. Yeah, no, I understand. I just lost Bob again. Okay. Right? Mebaile legufe. For Rabbi Yehuda, legufe lo tzarich, and Rabbi Yehuda, who did darshan the word samchu, he doesn't need it for the pasuk itself to give its instruction. Okay? De'im kain, because if that's the case, delo ate v'samchu l'drasha likutei. Okay, it doesn't come to bring the word samchu for the purpose of a drasha. Okay, that's not why it's written. Ziknei ha'edah yedehem al rosh hapar. That the hands of the okay, on the head of the animal. So we would say you theoretically you could have learned it from that part of the pasuk that therefore you did not almost need the word v'samchu. Okay, right. Well, that was Rabbi Yehuda's answer. But Rabbi Shimon, ikatuv hachi, if it's written that way, hava amina, okay, mai, what would I understand that the meaning? Well, we'll get to it. Hold on, Michael. Hold on. For Rabbi Shimon, ikativ hachi, if it's written that way, hava, I would have said, mai, what is the connection of the need for the word samchu? Because when we say putting on, it may not necessarily mean on mamash. It could be around, near, things like that. Mai al bisamuch. That would be the case because we have examples. Art Scroll has a note where it cites a number of psukim, okay, in which it specifically tells us that the word there al does not mean on, but means near.
The bean is samach
Right? Right. Right. V'Rabbi Yehuda Gamar, all right, Rosh Ma'ola. Okay, but Rabbi Yehuda learns a Gezerah Shava, in this case, from the word Rosh, okay, from a Ola offering. But Rabbi Shimon, Lo Gamar Rosh Me'ola. But Rabbi Shimon doesn't have the Masorah, for whatever reason, of a Gezerah Shava in that case. Okay, we go on now. Still dealing with the language. Tana, the Braita teaches, Smicha, Usmichat Zekenim, Bishlosha. It uses uses the word smicha once, general, and then once smichat zakenim. And both have to be done with three. Okay? My smicha, what does then we mean by simply, I'll say the word smicha, umay smichat zakenim. And what then do we mean by the word smichat zakenim, laying on of hands by the elders? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, mismach sabe. Okay, we're talking about the smicha, ordination of elders. Okay, Amarle, and so what happens? Abai Rav Yosef, mismach save bishlosha minalan. How do we know that the ordination of a elder should be done with three? Okay, ilema midichtiv v'yismoch et yadav alav. If we're going to take it from the example of Moshe and Yehoshua, right? If that's the case, it said he put his hands on him. If Moshe did it as an individual, doesn't that seem to raise the question, why do you need three? It could be just a single individual doing smicha. Ihachi, right? Taske bechad. If such, it could be enough to be done by one person. V'chi tema Moshe b'makom shiv'im v'chad kai. And if you want to say that the authority of Moshe was such that it was equivalent or even more than that of the entire Sanhedrin, right? Right? That's okay. Ihachi lebai shivim v'chad. If that's the case, then every time we would have to do smicha for its sage, you'd need 71 other rabbis to do so. Okay? Well, kasha, and so it's problematic. Amarle Rav Acha bered the Rav Ashi. He says to Rav Ashi, Okay, biyada mamash samchinenle. With your hands, do you actually put it on him? All right, you press the guy's head on the guy's head or on his shoulders, whatever. Okay, amarle samchinle bishma. No, we basically ordain him or give him, okay, with the use of his title or his name. Okay, Kari le Rabbi, and we call him Rabbi. Okay, Veyehive le Rishuta lemudan dine knasot, and we give him the permission, okay, to adjudicate issues of fines. Okay, v'chad lo samich, and therefore are we saying that an individual elder cannot do the smicha, the ordination? Excuse me. V'ha'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Didn't Rav Yehuda say in the name of Rav? Bram. Okay, indeed. Zachor oto ha'ish lato. May
Okay,
that
Jovi, where you going? Gonna
individual
work?
be
Love you. Thank you,
remembered for
Shehel.
good.
Thank
Rabbi
you,
Yehuda ben
Shehel.
Baba Shmo. And Rabbi Yehuda himself was his name.
Love you. Thank you.
Okay. Sha'imale hu nishtachachu dine knasot mi Yisrael. Were it not for him, it's possible that laws of fines would have been forgotten among the Jewish people. Nishtachachu, that would have been forgotten. Nigrisunhu. No, we'll say that it would have been. Okay, they could have sat and reviewed it, learned it again. Ella, what do we mean? The top of the Amud, Ella bitlu dine knasot Yisrael, shepam echad gzera malchut harsha'a gzera al Yisrael, shekol hasomech yehoreg, v'chol hanismach yeharog. Okay, and I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah, he's telling the story of how.
Right? What? Yes. Right. Okay, so that's where we'll stop right now.
Oh, man.
Okay, 1 second. Steve has your side today. Rabbi Chanani ben Akasha Meretz HaKadosh Baruch Hu is good Yosef Fichach Be'er Torah Mitzvot. Shneimar and Eichvetz Man Sidko. Yagdil Torah V'Yadir. Rabbanan Kai.
Get to it. 1 second. I don't have it memorized.
Okay. He's going to. He's got to
Yeah,
just
I don't
find
have
it on his.
memorized. Yisgadal v'yisgadashim erba.
Amen.
Yom adiva v'yisay v'michna v'yisay v'chay echon v'meyechon v'chay v'chol beis Yisrael v'galah zman karivim amen.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavorach.
Yisbarach, 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 Yisasay, Yisada, Yisbarach, Yisbarach. May the Kudusha brit. Leila may call the Chasa, Yisbarach, Peace, the Chasa, the Nechmasa, the Ram. Yisbarach, Shamaya, Chaim, Alena, the Alcohol Israel, you know. Oh, Session. Kuya Session. Alena, the Alcohol Israel.
Amen.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi Green. I should see you tomorrow in Boca, God willing.
Okay, great.
God willing. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael, for all of your assistance today.
Go over it one more time.
Yeah. But
Once you have the ideas.
yeah, the concept I grabbed.
Once or twice
There
is
was
enough.
there was but
Once or twice is enough.